Welcome to a new episode of our podcast Lead the Future, Change the Conversation. An unedited, honest conversation to create the future. I'm Arjan Visser, your host, a futurist, and join me when I chat with my dear friend Shane Pope on self-leadership, future and peers. Shane is the director of an international business called ARMATEC, if I'm correct.
It is ARMATEC, yes.
And he's an emerging voice for leaders who want to integrate their life, their business, actually their life in their business, and to make it personal again. Welcome back on the podcast, Shane. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, it's good to see you again, and it's good to be here again.
Again, yeah. Well, that was my introduction again, like to make it personal. Because that's the way I introduced you last time as well, and it really sticked with me that business is personal, and but we tend to forget it. It's actually, and I've been reading a little bit about it, that actually brings us in an environment where we call it the red zone environment, where we take everything personal because we tend to say, don't take it personal, but it's human to human, it's relational. And so I think, I thought, and I still think, what if we take it a little step deeper? What does it mean to take business personal? See it as a relationship.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you talk about relationship, and I wanted to bring that up today. Just this week, I came across this idea, and you and I are both fans of a particular set of ancient Hebrew texts, wisdom literature that these days we call the Bible, which is perhaps not a bit of an old-fashioned book, if you say, but I think there's wisdom in this ancient literature to be gleaned that we can use today. And what I wanted to bring today was that there's a word in there, righteousness. I think the Hebrew word is tzedakah. It's translated into an English word, righteousness. And I always thought of that as like the sort of an internal kind of moral standard that I had to live up to, try to be this perfect person. But what I've come to see this week, is that this word righteous, it's actually a relational word. It's not some sort of abstract standard, but it talks about how we relate both to our God, or our source of life, and also to others, to the people in our lives. So when I think about that in the context of leadership and in the context of business, it just reframes that the whole way I view it. In my business, how am I relating to my source of life, my God, my guiding principles, if you like, my ethos, my vision and mission statement, if you want to frame it that way. How am I relating to that? And how am I relating to the people that I lead and the people that I do business with? And how can I make sure that I'm doing business in a way that ensures I relate well to both of those things and don't compromise my relationships with those things?
Yeah, there's so much to unpack in that one. Like probably we all know, like in a business setting, we have to choose what is good to do versus what is for us the right thing to do. And we sometimes say one is effectiveness. When it's a good thing to do, we can do it better. We want to be the best. But the other things is effectiveness. It's where we have authority. We are unique. We have impact and influence, and that's where we want to do the right thing. But you take it to the next level. That is not just how we do things. It is connected to what we do, why we do it, and with who we are actually doing it. That relational exchange. Those words come to mind.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. And I think in one sense for me it sort of takes the pressure off a little bit of trying to be perfect. Trying to have a perfect product or a perfect system or a perfect business model, and that when I fall short or something goes wrong, I suddenly throw my hands up in failure because what I delivered wasn't perfect, But no, instead it's okay. If something goes wrong, and let's be honest, if we're entrepreneurs and we're in business, things are going to go wrong. That happens. Then if our focus is on this relational side, how do we restore that relationship? How do we relate well to our customers and to our suppliers? Even in the midst of things going wrong, we can still maintain a good relationship. And I remember reading that a little while ago, this whole idea of kind of customer service, and particularly when something goes wrong in a customer journey, the product is faulty or there's something wrong with delivery. And it's often how businesses manage the things that go wrong and how they serve their customers in the midst of that actually elevates them in the eyes of those customers. It's not necessarily getting a perfect product straight away, but if how they respond when things go wrong can often raise the esteem in their eyes.
Yeah. Well, it just brings back a conversation I had a couple of years ago already. It was around in a coaching context. And it was mentioned that it's about doing what's good, doing good for people's society. And it's not about right and wrong. But I didn't agree with that. I didn't know why, really, but it comes now back to mind. It is all about right and wrong, because we are not here to do good. We are here to contribute what is for us the right thing to do, because that gives true diversity, because then everyone contributes out of their uniqueness, their authenticity, and we make mistakes because that is the only true way of being a learner.
Yeah.
And we have to clean up our mess.
Sure.
So we have to come back from what we did wrong and clean it up. Probably mainly relational, I guess.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking about when you think about doing it wrong in the context of a relationship with a peer, with a client, with yourself, that inner life you mentioned?
Yeah, I think Arjan, it's for me, it's partly taking things day by day and thinking, okay, in this moment, what's the right thing to do here and now, in this moment, in this context, given what's happened before and things have gone well, some things maybe have not gone well, and I think sometimes there's a temptation to try and shortcut to the end, or to shift the blame onto somebody else, or to what's the most expedient or efficient, like you were saying before, what's the most efficient way to resolve this issue that's going to cost me the least and get me the most that I can out of this situation. But I think we need to step back and hang a second. We need to reflect on this properly in this context, in this relationship that I have with this person. What's really the right thing to do that's both in alignment and serves this relationship that I have with this person, but also is in alignment and serves the relationship that I have inside myself with the way I follow and live my life, what governs my life. And I think we need that's the journey of maturity and developing in wisdom and understanding, is how to navigate those situations and not compromise one or the other.
Yes, that sounds like a lot of work. So I understand why people say don't take it personal, because
exactly it's the easy out, right?
It's
just business. Don't take it personally. I don't means I don't have to deal with all of that. I don't have to think about you as a person and my relationship with you, I can just cut that off, and I can accelerate towards this, whatever resolves the situation and gets me out of it as quickly as possible.
And that just illustrates how destructive it is and how immature it is.
Right.
To burn relationships to get your own gain, which means there is no mutuality, there's no win-win involved, there is no heart importance. It's just you suffer, so my job is done.
and on one level, on a surface level, that resolves the issue, right? The issue is now resolved. The person is fired, they've left the building, the issue is solved, but it leaves a residue both in that relationship with that person and in that person themselves, and in their connection with the company and with you, and a whole history of the work there. It also leaves a residue in me, that I know that I inflicted this on this person and I didn't honor that. That residue sticks around. And how do you deal with that?
Yeah. I'd also think, because it's a lot of work, you have to be really intentional.
Yes.
And know when it's purposeful to build such a level 10 relationship. Because I think you can't do it with everything.
No.
Because then it becomes the core job.
Right. Yes. Yes. So again, more wisdom is needed to know how much to invest in these relationships with different people that you encounter. Yeah, you're exactly right. There's different levels of intentionality and different levels and different ways of relating, whether it's people we work with, whether it's our customers, our suppliers, our boss, and then all our personal relationships as well. It's when we're leading in families and we're leading in other community groups, it's the same. I think the same wisdom applies.
Yeah. So how do you develop this wisdom, this focus? I think you need people, or at least a dialogue.
100%. Yeah, it's something that we learn from others. Yeah, it is certainly has to be a communal aspect. I can't figure it out myself. And like going back to where we launched off with this set of ancient Hebrew text. I mean, there's that abounds in wisdom, where we can read the stories of people over spans of thousands of years, how they're related to one another, how they're related to their source of life. We can glean wisdom from that, but we also need people in our current context to help us understand and translate some ancient wisdom to modern context, because it's different. We live in a completely different context. So how do we take that wisdom and those right ways of relating and apply that in our context today? And in situations, as entrepreneurs and business people, we were always in somewhere new. We're always pushing the boundary. This is a new relationship. This is a new situation. We need people around us who've at least traveled a similar journey that can help us to reflect and speak into our situations.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, it's the relationship to wisdom, which is already a interesting topic on itself. Wisdom is not knowledge. No. Wisdom is in relationship. That makes it processed, lived through, authentic. So it becomes your wisdom. Mm-hmm. And that process, that takes time, but that takes peers. And we are both part of a peer mastermind where we find out that actually having a safe environment with peers that are not having a stake in your business, in your life, that creates a context of sharpening iron with iron and actually developing these relational wisdom skills, priorities, with feedback. Yes. And then we can just say sorry because nothing is burned or lost if we overstep ourselves.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's a, as you say, it's a safe environment. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I definitely want to invite anyone listening in, like, if you want to know more about who you are, where you are going, and how you develop that relationally to
Yes.
those that are part of that journey, that those that you need to get to the future, that you actually serve when you arrive in the future. You want to develop those things. Just use the link that is shown on the screen and that's mentioned in the comments of the podcast, to just sit in as a guest and find out if this is a group where you can find your voice. You can find your fuller version of your identity, who you are, and what's the emerging future containing for you. You're welcome. You will meet Shane and me in a live setting.
It'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, just to go throw that in as the commercial break. But because it's so true and it's so easy to miss. Like I hear you say it's the relationship with, call it input, ancient wisdom, but it's relational. It's not just feeding knowledge. Actually, one of those lines in Proverbs is that knowledge is healthy for your soul. So gaining knowledge, eating knowledge is not for your head.
Yeah.
So and soul, I think the soul is a relational place with yourself as it is with others, as it is with your source of life. So that's already, like, there's so many dimensions in having a healthy relationship.
And because I think it's important when we think about, connecting or engaging with, whether that's these ancient texts we're talking about, whether it's modern wisdom texts. There's a whole library of books out there containing business principles or leadership principles, leadership wisdom, if you like. I think it's important to understand that we don't just read the principle and understand it and follow it, do the thing exactly how it's said. I mean, and these ancient laws, these ancient texts are the same. They weren't written as a sort of a black and white, this is exactly how society or life should be done for all time. It was contextual, it was relational, and it was meant to shape or form people that think and act and live in a certain way. And you see that in the same book. Jesus reflecting on these ancient laws is like, it says don't murder, but actually the wisdom behind that law is love one another. There's a whole depth to it all. So I think you're right, we don't just take these ideas into our head and do that. It's
and that
internalizing.
Goes back to your first point. Righteousness, it's not meeting a standard,
right?
And actually principles, if we just take them isolated, then they are just that. They are just a standard to meet. They're an external expectation agreed upon in a group where maybe you are not part of, and you're just actually ticking the box at the expense of your own internal relationship. But when you take principles and you connect them to promises, then the verb is back, and it's not meeting it, but it's actually living it and using it to nurture what you uniquely care. Like Carrie, like when you enter the room, something, it becomes accessible, and something can be fixed, and something can be created. And when you didn't show up, it didn't. But that is not just you showing up. There's a whole life of preparation happening before it. And those we capture as principles because we live by, we nurture actually who we are.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. I think this is more than enough. This goes quite deep. I want to thank you. And I'm looking forward to the next podcast we can do to take the next little step into this deep source of understanding that we are humans and we are relational beings. So let's start be relational.
Yes, in everything we do.
So thank you very much. Already given the invite to everyone to connect with us that wants to actually go deeper into who am I? How does that relate to others? How does that relate to myself and relate to the future? Then just join as a guest and find out if that peer group that you are part of serves you in this way. So thank you very much.
Pleasure. It's been great.
Take care.